And lastly, we would like to welcome Matt Huffman from Purposeful Connections. He will be sharing about the ministry, and a love offering will be collected after he speaks. So please welcome Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I just appreciate the opportunity to be here and to share with you about the ministry and what's going on. And hugely appreciate all your support over the years. And when I come here, one of my goals is to try to communicate to you what your gifts and your encouragement accomplishes. And so that's my goal for this morning. And I think many of you already know what we do, but in case you're not familiar, we do spiritual emphasis weeks for Christian schools across New England and New York. And when we go to a school, we're there for a week at a time, and we do chapel each morning, and then after chapel we stay all day every day and build connections with the students, build relationships with them. We sit in their classes, eat lunch with them, play at recess, play in gym class, go to their after school activities, and anything that helps us connect more with them. And we go to the same schools every year, and so we build connections not just over the course of 5 days, but over the course of many years as well, and get to be involved in students' lives as they grow up from sometimes elementary students through high school and even beyond to college and out of college and so on. And I think sometimes people wonder what's the value of going into Christian schools, because Christian schools are already a ministry. But it's anything that happens in the public schools happens in Christian schools too. And we have the opportunity and the freedom to share Christ in Christian schools. And there are a lot of Christian school students who, as many of you know, Pam Brady, as she would always say, who know the word of the Lord, but don't know the Lord of the word. And Spiritual Emphasis Week can be catalytic in students' lives, much in the same way that summer camp can be for students as well. And so this morning, just sharing, again, some of the fruit. Last year when I was here, last spring I think it was, I shared with you about Coffee Can. And Coffee Can is where the students get to ask us whatever question they want on a note card. It's anonymous, there's no name on it. They can ask literally whatever they want, and we'll take their questions seriously and spend a period or 2 periods or whatever answering the questions. And I wanted to kind of give you an update and just share some more of the Coffee Can questions that we've dealt with in the past few months. And it kind of gives you an idea of where students are at and what questions we're answering when not, we have the chapel each morning where I get to pick the topics, but these are some of the topics that they pick for our discussions. This was one from a middle schooler. My mother is in an abusive relationship and she has an alcohol issue. How can I tell her that what she is doing is wrong? Can your worth be taken away from you by someone else's sin? And this was an 8th grade girl who was sexually abused by her grandfather. And so dealing with her worth because of what her grandfather did. Can your worth be taken away from you by someone else's sin? And if not, then why does it feel it? And how come certain things happen to some people but not others? And the school was fully aware of all this, but obviously she's still having to work through that. And again, this is in a Christian school. How can you deal with a parent that has addiction problems like alcohol, cigars, and verbal abuse? And this is another sexual abuse question. I was touched a while ago and I want to tell my dad, but I don't know how to because I know what he's capable of. I feel upset because why would God allow that at his own church? Right? So that happened within the church setting. And that was also a middle schooler. Why should I try to be myself if no one likes who I am? This is from an 8th grade guy in a Christian school. Why should I be myself if no one likes who I am? How should I tell my parents about God and the Bible to make them believe and trust in Him, even though they're too far into everything besides God? What happens when someone you love and admire for godly reasons, like a trusted adult, does something wrong? And how do you deal with loneliness? Because you can be lonely in a Christian school. And you can have family problems in a Christian school. And other issues. Even though I'm walking with God, it still feels like I'm walking alone, waiting for Him to show up. Why do I still feel alone? Right? Loneliness, common, very common in this generation. We deal with that all the time. Wisdom on reconciling broken bonds, burnt bridges, specifically with family. Advice on how to help a friend who isn't mentally well, but doesn't want to hear about God. It's also another middle schooler. This is a 6th grader. What happens if every time your divorced parents talk, they always yell at each other? Caught in the middle. What should I do when I have a friend who thinks they're the opposite gender? And that was from a 7th grade girl talking about one of her classmates. Since I have really bad anxiety about death, even though I'm a Christian and I know where I'm going, but I'm still really scared about me dying, how can I comfort that feeling? I've tried to pray, but it never seems to go away. Again, Christian school, dealing with fear of death, and even though she knows where she's going. Have you gone through something where you felt like God wasn't there for you? If so, how did you realize that He will always be there for you? Now, why do you think they're asking about, have you ever gone through something where you felt like God wasn't there for you? Because they're probably in the middle of feeling like they're going through something and feeling like God's not there for them. And they want to know, how do you get through that? This was a physical abuse situation. She said, Mr. Huffman, thank you for coming and talking to me. I really needed to open up to someone about my dad. CPS came, Child Protective Services came, and took him away, and me and my mom are relieved about it. And so this was just a note, and that happened the week that we were there, that her dad was taken out of the house for physical stuff that was going on. And why does God take so long to answer prayers sometimes? And again, when you get these questions and someone's asking, why does God take so long to answer prayers? Why are they asking that question? Because there's probably something they've been praying about that they feel like God hasn't answered. And so some of these issues, like I said, you can find no matter what school you go to, public school, Christian school, charter school, you're going to find whatever you're going to find in public and charter schools, you're also going to find in Christian schools. And we have the opportunity to point them to answers in God's Word. And dealing with the spiritual questions, just because they're in a Christian school doesn't mean they don't have questions about, I'm scared of dying even though I'm a Christian. Or why is God taking so long to answer my prayer? Why do bad things happen to me in a church where this isn't supposed to happen? And so we have the opportunity to address those besides what we talk about in chapel. Like I said, I tell them I get to pick the topics for chapel time, but in Coffee Can, they get to pick the topics. And those are some of the things that we've addressed just since January. But I also wanted to share with you about the impact that your support has on the team members. So some of you know I'm the only full-time person, but when I go to a school, I'm never the only person who's there. We always try to do it in teams. It's more effective. It's better to have multiple voices, and so on. And the weeks when we're at schools have huge effects on our team members as well. Mercy came with us, I believe, it was either 2 or 3 years in a row, to a school in New York City. And her dad was a Christian school teacher, and she decided, I am never going to be a teacher. I am never going to be a teacher. I've seen my dad. It's not for me. And then she came to the school in New York City with us, like I said, at least 2 consecutive years. And in January of this year, when the new semester began, what do you think Mercy is doing? All right, she is teaching. And her love for teaching came from traveling to us to this Christian school in New York City. And that literally changed the entire direction of her life from something she said she would never do to something that she is now teaching full-time in the Finger Lakes region of central New York in a public school. Another example was from a mother named Marnie, and Marnie's from up in New Hampshire. And her son came with us as a 11th grader. And he came to Day Spring Christian Academy, which is down in Attleboro, Massachusetts, which is where we were this past week. And he came in 11th grade, and I got an email from her in December, and this is what she said. She said, the Lord used that trip, in particular his interactions with you and Dr. Pam, who many of you know, as well as one particular struggling student, to completely transform his heart for the Lord. He believes the Lord has now called him into full-time ministry as a pastor. He is in his 2nd year at Cedarville University and is part of an accelerated 5-year program to graduate with his MDiv. As a mom, the greatest blessing I've ever gotten after my salvation is to watch my son run hard after Jesus. And she thanks for that week at Day Spring Christian Academy. And so again, like Mercy teaching in a public school in the Finger Lakes region of New York, here you have this young man who came in 11th grade and is now studying to be a pastor at Cedarville University. And that week was a turning point. In addition, the last one is a young, well, not as young anymore, but a young man named Nimrod. He is Hungarian. I know it's an unusual name in our culture. It is in the Bible. I think it means mighty hunter, or something like that. But Nimrod was from Hungary. And he also came with us to Day Spring Christian Academy in Attleboro. And he came 3 or 4 times, and this is pre-COVID, and excellent team member, excellent young man, solid. And after he graduated from high school, he went back over to Hungary, studied to become a pastor, and then he has started leading spiritual emphasis weeks in Christian schools in Hungary. And he's done that for multiple years. This year they had 2 going on the same week. He led one week, and some people that he's trained up led the other week at a different Christian school. And the leader of the Baptist Conference in Hungary has asked him how can they expand this into more of their schools in Hungary. And so it has potential for huge growth over there through Nimrod. And what Nimrod is doing is what he learned coming out with us to Dayspring. And so part of my hope is that you see, that your support helps answer these real, genuine questions that are in students' hearts and minds. But your support also helps people like Mercy. It helps people like Gabe, and it helps people like Nimrod. And when you think about the fact that Mercy could have, a 30 or 40-year career teaching young people, and you think about Gabe could be a pastor and the influence of that over many decades as well. And when you think about Nimrod working in these Christian schools in Hungary, all those things are also the fruit of your investment into this ministry, which allows us to bring them, and which then has sent them out, to New York, to Ohio, to Europe. And so I just want that to be an encouragement to you of how far it goes. And just in terms of how you can pray for us, in this coming season, typically in the past, I've been the one who brings the team members with me, but we're trying to make a switch where I still bring some team members, but we're trying to get the schools to recruit some local people, because we see a lot of fruit when there is someone who's local who will take time to invest in the school. And that's kind of the transition we're trying to make this year and some next year, and then hopefully even more in the years ahead, raising up these local teams so I can just go to Bangor, Maine, and whether or not I bring anybody with me, Bangor, Maine has a local team that's been raised up that I can eventually turn it over to. And that would allow us also to expand to new schools that could be it could be anywhere. It could be in New England, it could be in New York, it could be in Illinois, it could be in Tennessee, where I just need to go and train up the local people who can then lead Spiritual Emphasis Week and carry it on in their local area. So that's kind of the short version of the longer-term vision, is to have these teams in different areas that can lead their local Spiritual Emphasis Week based on the model that Pam started, let me think, 36 years ago. Right, 36 years ago, and that God is still using, I think, as you see from these and you see from these other stories. So I really appreciate your time, really appreciate your support, and my prayer is always that God returns the blessing to you and to West Newbury. So it just means a lot. So thank you for having us.